A team of scientists leads the exploration of a distant planet in search of the origins of humanity. However, dark secrets about the creator of humans are uncovered, and alien threats are unleashed. In the year 2089, an archaeologist team led by Dr. Elizabeth Shaw and her husband Charlie discovers cave paintings in Scotland dating back 35,000 years. 2 years later, the spaceship Prometheus departs from Earth with the entire crew in hibernation, being overseen by David, a robot taking care of everything. During his free time, he uses it to learn more about humans, studying ancient languages and even playing basketball. After 2 years of travel, the ship reaches its destination, and David wakes up the entire crew who start eating to recover from the side effects of hibernation. Meanwhile, Captain Janek was concerned about setting up a Christmas tree as the crew had missed the holiday festivities. However, Vickers, who is in charge of overseeing everyone, didn't like the idea much. Soon, the mission begins, and she plays a holographic recording of Mr. Whalen, the CEO of the company funding the expedition. He explains that by the time the team watches that recording, he will already be dead, and introduces David to the crew, the closest thing he has to a son. He has always been curious about the origin of humanity and what happens after death, which is why he funded the expedition, because Dr. Elizabeth and her husband Charlie had a theory about the paintings found in different parts of the world, which represent a star map that could lead them to a planet with its own sun capable of sustaining life. And it is this same planet they are about to land on, because Elizabeth believes that these paintings were left by alien beings called engineers, and they may have been the creators of humanity. However, the rest of the team doesn't believe much in this theory and are only there for the money. Vickers calls the couple to go to her room, where Dr. Elizabeth becomes fascinated by an autonomous life support medical module. Vickers explains that she doesn't believe those cave drawings hold any significance and wants to ensure that the money isn't wasted. And if they find life on the planet, they are forbidden from making contact, which doesn't please the couple much. David, on the other hand, has spent the last 2 years studying and deciphering various ancient languages and is confident that he can communicate with the engineers. However, when they send a message to the planet, they receive no response, and the crew decides to land, only to find no signs of life as they enter the atmosphere. However, Charlie notices straight lines on the ground that couldn't have formed naturally, and they land the spaceship in that location. The group prepares for an expedition, and even though he doesn't need to, David puts on a protective suit to resemble humans. Using vehicles, the team approaches a structure where the geologist Fifield can't determine if it's of natural origin or not, but he is certain it's hollow. When they enter it, he sends his devices to map the entire area, and they come across a water source heated by sunlight. The CO2 levels are within the standards, unlike the toxic outside environment. Charlie takes the risk of removing his helmet, confirming that the air is perfectly breathable. Everyone takes off their helmets to continue, and David finds a wall covered in a strange goo and symbols. He uses his knowledge to activate a hologram, where creatures appear running through the corridors. The team becomes curious and decides to follow one of them, only to come across the crushed body of an alien being behind a door. At that moment, Fifield realizes that the situation is becoming dangerous and decides to return to the ship along with the biologist Milburn. The others decide to take a closer look at the body, and David manages to open the door, revealing the intact head of the alien. In this room, we can observe an enormous statue shaped like a humanoid head, along with drawings on the ceiling. We also see several scattered cylinders. David notices that one of them starts releasing a dark substance, and everyone realizes that the room has been contaminated as soon as the door was open. Previously preserved objects start decomposing, and the doctor begins to wrap the head to take it with them. David takes advantage of the situation to take one of the cylinders, unaware of its contents. Meanwhile, on the ship, the captain discovers that an extremely dangerous storm is approaching rapidly and warns everyone to return quickly before it's too late, as Vickers will raise the ship's ramp in 15 minutes. The team hastily exits the cave and drives back as fast as possible. They manage to arrive on time, but during the process, the alien head falls from the vehicle, and Elizabeth decides to retrieve it, getting caught in the storm. Charlie tries to save her but ends up trapped as well, and both are pulled in by David using the ship's cables. Afterward, the team discovers that Milburn and Fifield have not returned and are lost inside the structure. However, Janek contacts them and explains that they can't be rescued due to the storm, meaning they have to wait until the next morning. In the meantime, the team examines the alien head and discovers a helmet. When they open it, they find a humanoid alien head with new, changing cells. They decide to implant a device that sends electrical charges to move the muscles. It initially works, and the face begins to make gestures, but things go wrong, and the excessive stimulation causes the head to explode. Dr. Elizabeth Shaw examines the sample she collected from the head and is completely amazed to discover that the DNA is compatible with human DNA, confirming her theory that these beings truly created the human race. Meanwhile, David decides to perform maintenance on one of the hibernation pods that holds a mysterious person, and the only one who knows about it is Vickers, who demands angrily that David tells her what the person said. David just mentions to the team to try harder and secretly goes to inspect the cylinder he brought, which contains several capsules with the dark liquid, giving him an unpleasant idea. He decides to find Charlie for a drink, while both question how far they would go to obtain the answers they desire. He puts that in the doctor's drink, who later goes to his room, and Elizabeth shares the news about the DNA. They celebrate the discovery by having fun. Unlike Milburn and Fifield, who were observing a terrifying pile of engineer cups when they receive a call from the captain, warning them that the scanner detected signs of life nearby, which starts to worry them. Fortunately, the signal disappears, and Yannick says it was just a technical glitch. However, they come across the dark liquid dripping from the cylinders and to their surprise, find a reptilian alien swimming in the liquid. They become fascinated by the creature, but when Milburn approaches it, the creature grabs his arm and breaks it. Fifield cuts the creature to help his friend, but its blood is a corrosive fluid and ends up splashing on his helmet. The creature takes advantage of this and enters Milburn's suit, killing him as well. Okay, the next day Charlie wakes up feeling very sick and notices something strange in his eyes. Captain Yannick tries to communicate with Fifield and Milburn but can't reach them, so the team goes in search of the two. Meanwhile, David goes on his own, transmitting everything to Vickers through a camera on his helmet. However, upon finding a room filled with hibernation pods of the aliens, he stops the recording. David tinkers with a machine that shows holograms of the engineers looking at a star map with Earth on it. When the video ends, David sees that one of the capsules is glowing, with a live engineer inside, and it turns out that Charlie was the one feeling ill all along, still searching for his colleagues. However, Elizabeth realizes that he is sick, and they finally find Milburn's body, still with the creature inside him. However, Fifield's body had disappeared. Charlie couldn't stand anymore and was taken back to the ship to be placed in quarantine. However, his skin turns dark, and Vickers refuses to let him enter the ship. Elizabeth and the captain argue with her, while Charlie throws himself in front of Vickers and is burned alive. The team is put in quarantine, and an examination reveals that Elizabeth is 3 months pregnant, which is impossible because she was in hibernation during that time. The fetus has a strange and terrifying form that Elizabeth wants to remove, but David claims he doesn't have the resources or the proper team to perform the necessary surgery. Intense pain arises in her abdomen, and David, aware of what she has inside her, sedates her and orders the rest of the team to put her in a hibernation pod. However, Elizabeth manages to escape and, in search of a medical solution, remembers the autonomous medical capsule in Vickers' room. Unfortunately, she wasn't prepared to perform a cesarean section, and Elizabeth requests the extraction of the foreign body. However, the morphine isn't enough to relieve her pain. While a claw removes the fetus, it explodes. We see a terrifying creature attempting to break free, but the doctor endures until the machine sutures her wound and locks the alien. Outside, Yannick notices something strange in front of the ship, and in the end, it's revealed that Fifield has turned into a monster. He starts attacking everyone, and it seems that the projectiles have no effect on him. However, using a flamethrower and even a truck, they manage to stop the creature. Meanwhile, Elizabeth goes to the infirmary in search of medication and discovers that Mr. Wayland was the mysterious person David was conversing with in the capsule. He wishes to ask his creator for eternal life, and David will guide him to the engineer they found. However, Dr. Elizabeth tries to explain that this planet is dangerous and not what they thought it was, but no one listens to her. They put some kind of exoskeleton to help Wayland walk. Determined to overcome the pain she is feeling, Elizabeth dresses to go to the alien with them. But first, she talks to Yannick, who tells her that this is not the engineer's home planet but a military base where they were producing that dark liquid. They intended to use it as a weapon of mass destruction, but it leaked and killed them all. The captain wanted to return to Earth, but Elizabeth convinces him to wait until she can speak with the only surviving engineer. Wayland is eager to meet his creator. However, Vickers appears to try to stop him, and we find out that she is his daughter. Okay, when the team arrives at the structure, David tells everyone to remove their helmets because he knows the disease is not in the air. Dr. Elizabeth wonders how her husband got infected. Soon, the group enters the room full of cylinders, and David refers to it as a cargo hold. The captain and Vickers realize that it's not a cave or anything like that but a spaceship. David activates the machine and explains that those creatures were heading towards Earth but lost control of the dark liquid, which destroyed them. At that moment, the last engineer awakens, and Elizabeth tries to ask him questions, but Wayland orders one of his mercenaries to shut her up. He asks David to communicate with the humanoid, who reacts violently, grabbing Wayland's head and using it to kill him. Then, the engineer pushes the doctor to attack the mercenaries, and from the ship, Vickers witnesses the death of her father and orders the captain to prepare everything to leave the planet. Meanwhile, Elizabeth escapes while the creature activates its own ship, planning to fly towards Earth. However, the doctor warns Yannick about the threat of the dark liquid, which will destroy all of humanity if it reaches Earth. Yannick orders the pilots to increase the ion ratio, turning the ship into a bullet. Vickers escapes after finding out that her chamber was ejected from the ship, and the captain asks the pilots to do the same. However, they choose to stay by his side, and he uses maximum power to hit the engineer's ship. The two ships collide in the air, successfully preventing the engineer's escape. However, the ship starts falling towards the ground, putting Elizabeth and Vickers in danger, and only the doctor manages to survive. Elizabeth goes to the ejected chamber to retrieve supplies, but she hears strange noises. Upon investigation, she discovers that the alien that came out of her abdomen is still alive and very large. However, the problem is not that but the engineer that appears and attacks the doctor. She manages to escape when the humanoid is attacked by the alien. Meanwhile, David manages to contact her and reveals that there are more engineer spaceships underground. He offers his help, so Elizabeth decides to rescue David's head and body. But the doctor makes an unusual request. Instead of returning to Earth, she wants to go to the engineer's home planet. David agrees, and when they depart the planet aboard an alien ship, Dr. Elizabeth sends a message to Earth explaining what happened. In the final scene, we see an alien creature emerging from the body of the dead engineer. Thank you for watching, and subscribe to receive more videos like this. Activate the notifications and leave a like to support the channel. Thanks, and see you next time.